The most common way people give up their power is by assuming that they don't have any. But kids can tell us that we have power and that we can make a difference and must act to protect our future. So all of us have felt demoralized when we see about rainforests destroyed or endangered species. And when I was going around talking to kids about these things, when I was a children's book author and illustrator, the kids would get really upset. And sometimes they would even cry. And I realized that they needed to hear about what they could do, the solutions. And so when I wrote The Great Kapok Tree, I was really heartened because kids would put on plays and musicals, and they would teach their community about the things they could do. And kids ended up saving over 40,000 acres of rainforest. So that's when I knew kids really had power. Kids are the best messengers because when adults discount the future, kids can look us in the eye and say, how can this be right? Do you love us? Do you even care about us? And whenever kids say that in testimony or something, well, how can you argue with that? So a League of Conservation Voters did a study, and it showed that most people get their environmental education materials from what their kids bring home from school, and that their kids are the biggest force upon them to change their ways to a more sustainable lifestyle. A lot of the presenters have talked about the power of story. And so when these stories evoke emotions, and it's really important to also, when you're teaching about science and the facts and data, to always have this emotional handle to reach people's hearts and souls. And of course, nothing's better than reaching a person's heart than their children. This is a story about the Nashua River, and when the kids, when they were trying to clean it up, it was the kids who would go down with signs like this: hold your nose, Nashua River ahead. That motivated them to clean up the river. These kids in Michigan saved a forest of pine trees. The kids outside of DC saved the Beltwoods, 60 acres. They were able to get it from the Episcopal Church. And I have all kinds of stories like this. And so when I was so concerned about climate change, actually very fearful about climate change, I thought this has to be the same approach where, because kids will bear the brunt of climate disruption, they're the best messengers to save our beautiful, fragile planet. This book, How We Know What We Know About Our Changing Climate, was about the scientists who were doing the research. But again, we were thinking, well, surely if people knew what was happening, they would take action. But again, they would avoid hearing about climate change because it was too traumatic. So I began doing these short documentaries championing youth solutions to the climate crisis. These are uplifting success stories motivating people to act. And these are girls in the movie Dreaming in Green. And the girl on the far right, Larissa, is actually here with us. She's now in college here in Boston. They raised $53,000. They saved their school $53,000 in energy bills by doing an energy audit. So youth can as Ace was talking about, spark a public outcry for a sustainable future. So the Young Voices for the Planet film series, they show youth solutions to the climate crisis. And they're models of self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is a person's belief that they have the power to make a difference in their own lives and in the world at large. The way to develop this is by starting off talking about troubling topics with success stories rather than starting with the doom and gloom, and seeing people who you identify with, and a lot of the presenters have talked about that. And for kids to do something where they have initial success, and that's a really good hook to continue to want to change the world. This is a program you might want to look at. It's archived. It's Cape and Islands Radio, and Heather Goldstone was the talk show host for this on the psychology of social science. And Tony Liserowitz and I talked about climate messaging. And his study from Yale showed that the negative messages have the least impact. And this was a New York Times op-ed. So self-efficacy, once it's developed, follows a young person through the rest of their life. It actually changes who they are. So this is Alec Lohr's. This movie is Kids versus Global Warming. And I filmed him when he was 12. And then as he grew up, it just stayed with him. So he met James Hansen, who said that if we want to do something about climate change, we need to put a tax on carbon. And so Alec, as he grew up, he went to Congress and he lobbied for this tax on carbon. He presented a Declaration of Independence from fossil fuel at Congress. And now he spearheaded this effort to sue the federal and state governments for their failure to regulate carbon and hence protect the future of the young people. These kids from Team Marine got the first plastic bag ban in Santa Monica. They used humor. Jordan Howard from Green Ambassadors, they greened their school, Clean Plate Club, and all kinds of other things. Olivia Buhler, at 11 years old, heard about the oil spill, and she was very upset. She raised $200,000 for Audubon's effort to clean the oiled birds with her paintings. The Rivertown kids sang with Pete Seeger, and they won an Emmy for this song that they wrote, and these are the words that they wrote to the song. Well, you're only kids, they say, and you'll run the world someday. Sit back, relax, don't say a word. We can't vote, but don't you see? We can speak out musically. We sing out to be heard. And it's a beautiful song, it's in the movie. At University of Colorado, they had a teacher training workshop, and the teachers were getting really demoralized when they were expected to teach about climate change. They said, we just feel like going jump off a bridge. How can we teach this to our kids? But then when they showed the Young Voices for the Planet films first, these success stories, they thought, this is how we do it. We start with the success stories. And so the important thing is to start with the solutions. Because if people just hear doom and gloom, they go into a state called motivated avoidance. There was a really great paper on this in the Journal of Behavior and Social Psychology. When faced with an unsettling or seemingly intractable issue that people don't know very much about, they're motivated to avoid hearing any more about it. So if we start with the doom and gloom, we can actually push people away to such an extent that we can't get them back, that they go into denial. So how these studies are convincing a lot of communicators to consider the psychological effect and to start with the climate solutions. In Climate Smart and Energy Wise, Professor Mark McCaffrey wrote about how the Young Voices for the Planet films act as an antidote to the fear of climate change. National Science Foundation recently announced that their climate change education grants would require a solutions component. So people are really getting it that it's important to precede these scary climate science stories with solutions. Climate Change Live used the films in their great Classrooms in Action. There's an Empowering Young Voices for the Planet, National Geographic, and now PBS Learning Media has developed this really wonderful website with the films and curriculum that I hope you will all use. The films are there themselves, streamed. You can download them or at least watch them in class. This is Felix Finkbeiner. When he was 11 years old, he started Plant for the Planet. He's now planted millions of trees around the world through his viral website. And these are some of the pages from the PBS Learning Media that you can watch when you have time. I encourage everyone here who's working with young people to please send the stories so we can post them on our Young Voices for the Planet Youth Action Map. This is thanks to Esri. They are developing this for us. And we have all the kids from the Young Voices for the Planet films, but we also have kids from all over the world who are doing things to reduce CO2 emissions. And so coming full circle, inspired by the kids in the Young Voices for the Planet films, these 3 9-year-old girls started a club called Save Tomorrow. And now we're going to show the film, Save Tomorrow, and the girls, the stars of this film, are actually here for, and you can ask them questions after the screening of the film.
We're really, really close. We've been really close since like kindergarten. Working as a team it gives you much more courage than if you're just working as an individual. If you're alone, it's always scary.
I have these 2 friends, Mari McBride and Lily Georgopoulos, and I've known them since I was before preschool.
I think what binds us together is our passion for what's going on around us. We're all doers.
So when we were little, when we were first hearing about climate change,
It was on the news, it was in the papers, our parents were talking about it.
I just felt despair. It was worse than concern. It was just sadness. I didn't think there was anything anyone could do.
We got older and we realized that the grown-ups weren't doing anything about it. We kind of lost our faith in adults.
If they care about us, they should care about our future too.
No one was going to protect our future for us, and so we were on our own.
I think the fight against climate change is kind of like the fight of Harry Potter and the Death Eaters.
Harry Potter was born into this problem, just like we were born into this problem. We saw that Harry Potter was brave.
Even though he was a kid, he made a difference.
We kind of saw him as a role model.
When I was watching the Young Voices for the Planet films, I'd never seen kids in action before, and it was really, really amazing. And I realized that there was nothing different between me and the kids on those screens, and I could be doing what they were doing.
We thought, can we do something like this? Is it possible?
So I got really excited, and I got out a notepad, and I started writing. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was going to do something. All of a sudden, this idea just popped into my head. Save Tomorrow, that would be the group name.
Here in Lexington, the town laws didn't allow solarization of our town buildings.
We learned that there was a chance for all three of us to come and talk about climate change at the town meeting.
Lily and Mari and I wrote some statements to try and get them to allow solar panels to go on public buildings.
At first, we were a little bit scared. These are a bunch of grown-ups. They run the world.
To stop climate change, everyone has to pitch in and help. That means all of us right here in Lexington.
We decided to quote Dr. Seuss, using a quote from the Lorax. We said it together.
And remember, as Dr. Seuss said, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's gonna get better. It's not.
Thank you very much, ladies.
And then the whole town meeting just stands up and starts clapping. Even the moderator was clapping.
All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
It kind of hit us. We had helped this article pass unanimously.
It is unanimous. The motion carries.
We literally just skipped out of the town hall.
We had helped to get solar panels on all the town buildings. We weren't just helpless little girls.
We have more power than we'd ever imagined in our wildest dreams.
After that, it was like, well, we did that. What can we do now?
We found out that they were planning to tear down part of our forest right next to Alice's house.
It's so quiet and peaceful out there. All you can hear is like birds and wind.
And
free.
It's just like a whole separate world.
We have forts back there. We have owls back there that we know. We know where all the animals live. We love those forests. And it was devastating to think that they could just tear down all those trees without even thinking about it. We immediately knew that we weren't going to let this happen. We made a petition to save our woods.
To whom it may concern, we are the kids of Lexington, and we have too many amazing memories of Mountain Road without anyone disturbing the beautiful forest there.
And then we went around to the whole cafeteria asking people, do you want to sign this? Then we turned it in. And I think that they were really just overwhelmed. A bunch of school children all fighting for this little lot of woods behind their houses. This is like where they play. And I'm pretty sure they hadn't even realized that.
One of the reasons why people listen to kids is because we're trying to do what's right.
Whereas some adults, they're doing it for the money.
But They realized how much this plot of land meant to all of us, and I think that really helped them make their decision. They kept the woods there, and the woods are still there today.
We saved the woods from there to beyond my house over there.
Yeah.
It's more like a corridor in between two big woods.
Yeah. A passageway for the animals.
We realized, wait, we have a new school. We can put solar panels on our new school, reducing CO2 emissions and really doing something about climate change. Our whole school will be helping save the world.
Alice has been really fortunate to have found two friends that she's had really for her whole life, who share her passion and her interest and want to act on it with her.
We need to go out there and take a risk to make a difference.
We're taking it into our hands now.
Seeing that we do have power and that we can make a change in the world, it's really inspiring. It really changes you. And I think it's just gonna grow from here. So find your team, find your passion, find your power. We could power our whole town on clean solar energy.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much to WGBH for hosting this, and also to Rockefeller Brothers Fund and Rockefeller Family Fund and the Wayako Family Fund for funding these 10 movies.
And yeah, Lynn, if you take a seat here, now for what I hope no one will be offended if I say is already my favorite part of everything we've done today or will do today. I'd like to invite you, Larissa, and Saving Tomorrow. Lily, Mari, Alice, come on up here with us, please. Save Tomorrow. I'm really in awe. When I was 12, I went on a summer camp. It was when I decided I wanted to be a marine biologist and I wanted to save the oceans. And I got as far as coming home and telling my parents we had to recycle. You guys have gone so far beyond that, and it's really, really amazing to see. Really amazing. Larissa, you were in the film Dreaming in Green.
Yeah.
One of the films which these young ladies saw that inspired their own action. You're at Northeastern University. What are you doing now?
Unfortunately, not a lot by way of like a large project I can really talk about, but I definitely have carried with me the lessons and the inspiration from these projects, from just the aspect of not letting my age stop me from taking action and just kind of making sure that things are on the right track at school. Northeastern actually has a lot of great programs that are environmentally focused within our dining halls. Our new dorms that we're building are all LEED certified, which are things that I've researched and learned about with the projects that I was doing back in middle school and high school.
What's it like to meet these three? I know you guys met before this strand started over the lunch break. What's it like to meet them and know that you were part of what inspired them to do what they've done now?
It's very cool. I watched your film before today, and looking at it, I was like, that was me when I was their age. So I'm really glad to see that there continue to be young people who were doing what I looked back on as kind of crazy things that they were letting a bunch of middle schoolers do when I was doing them. So I'm glad you guys are continuing to carry the torch.
Thank you.
Now, you guys didn't obviously stop with one project. There are a couple of actions just in the film. The film is new, so it's not like it's out of date. But what's next?
Well, we want to try and get palm oil out of like common foods and like different things because there are better alternatives.
And palm oil is very harmful because in order to get palm oil, you have to just demolish rainforests, destroying animal habitats and releasing so much CO2 into the atmosphere. So we think it's important to not just kill animals and release CO2 to eat a cookie.
Makes sense. So how are you guys, do you guys have a plan for how you're going to go about this?
Well, what we're doing right now is we're looking at all the backs of our little containers, and we're looking at the ingredient lists on everything we eat, and we're seeing what companies are using palm oil in their foods, and we're planning to talk to them and, negotiate how they can use better alternatives.
I wonder if with all the successes you've had going before your town meeting and other groups of adults who have responded to what you've said, you said you'd lost faith in adults. Has any of this restored any of your faith in adults?
Yeah, it has. Like seeing all of you out here today coming to do what we're trying to do, and it's cool.
Are there questions in the audience here?
I'm a teacher of 6th graders, and you guys look like you're about 12, 13, 12?
We're in 6th grade
You're
right now.
Oh, fabulous. Then that's perfect. And we actually are working on a big ocean plastic project right now, and we are making videos, and actually one of the focuses is using humor and emotion in them. And so I was wondering, what advice would you give my students? I'm going to leave here today, and I'm going to say I've met these 3 wonderful women, young ladies.
It's really important for kids to know that they can do something and to show them that they can do something, because, as we said in the video, we didn't know we could do anything until we saw that we could. So it's important to show things like this so the kids can be empowered. So it's important for kids to be empowered.
So that they know that anyone can make a difference.
And there's no type of kid that can do something. There's no type of person who can't do something. Any type of person can do something and make a difference.
Wow. Anyone else? Well, I would say that I wholeheartedly, I love your message of empowerment, but to say that there's nothing special about you guys and what you've done is simply not true. It's really quite special, and it's really very inspiring. And so I'd just like to invite everybody to join me again in a round of applause for some really, really amazing kids. Thank you. Yep. And thanks for being here. I know you guys had to jump out of school to even be here this afternoon. Perhaps the easiest part, huh? All right. Well, I do want to invite the rest of our panel back up here. I know this is going to be a hard act to follow, but thank you guys so much for being here, and we hope you can stick around for a little bit more of the afternoon.
Thank you so much for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.